Well, welcome to another episode of Inside the Huddle. Today is Saturday, November 8th. Hopefully, everybody's having a good day so far today. This is episode 83 of the Inside the Huddle podcast. Thank you, as always, for joining us. Make sure to please like and subscribe. Another week of football ahead of us. Week 10 already halfway through. We are now into another week of November football. Another week closer to the playoffs, another week closer to December football. The season's flying by so much. The trade deadline has already passed, and now teams are all locked in, ready to go for the home stretch here. Lots to discuss this week here on the podcast. Crazy week full of trades impacting both of our teams with the Jets and Cowboys, so we'll dive into that and much, much more. DiMari, how's it going, man? Week 10 already here. Season continues to fly by.
Yeah, it's been a pretty good week, and the season is flying by. We're going to blink. Next thing you know, we're going to be talking about wild card and divisional and conference, all those type of games. We get playoff time. But as far as news, it's been a good week for probably both of us, you can say, in terms of you just mentioned the trade deadline. Also, kind of been of a sadder week for the Dallas. And obviously, I know the sports world has heard about the Marshawn Kneeland situation. So, rest in peace to Marshawn Kneeland. Condolences to the family, but luckily for Dallas this week, they're on a bye week, kind of wrap their head back around things and try to focus more on their brother in passing, less than football. They can worry about football for next week. But oh yeah, sad situation out of Dallas this week. But other than that, it's been a pretty eventful week, a pretty good week. We have a lot to get into regarding what happened this week and what's to come Sunday. So let's get into it.
Yeah, definitely a crazy week, and definitely correct about Marshawn Kneeland. Condolences to his family. Awful news. Only 24 years old. Had the touchdown actually on Monday night. So awful in just a couple days to see what happened. And yeah, from the Cowboys' perspective, bye week, kind of honor him and then, wrap your head around it and then get back to football, which is tough to do, and just awful news. And a couple unfortunate, sad deaths this year in the NFL world, whether it be Kneeland, even Nick Mangold as well, these last couple weeks. So NFL world's definitely taken a bit of a hit here. So condolences to his family, gone way too young, 24 years old. Now, to transition into what took place this week from a trade deadline standpoint, it was a crazy week. A couple big trades in the NFL. We'll start with the two biggest trades, and that is the Sauce Gardner trade to the Colts and the Quinnen Williams trade to the Dallas Cowboys. Jets completely selling off pieces, completely tearing it down. And that's something that I want to say quickly, because there's been this notion around a little bit amongst the Jets fan base, and I want to make it clear. Some people are like, oh, they're not tearing it down. They only trade two players. Tearing it down is when you trade your two best defensive players. They completely tore it down. And the fact that they were listening on Breece Hall, listening on Jermaine Johnson, they completely tore it down. They took a wrecking ball to this roster. So I don't want to hear, oh, it's only two players. It's not a complete fire sale. Trading two all-pro players is a fire sale. So we'll start with Sauce Gardner, since that was the biggest trade and one of the bigger trades that we've seen recently in the NFL. I mean, him and Micah Parsons, those are just two crazy deals. Sauce goes to the Colts. My first reaction to this was just shock. I was stunned. I didn't really have a reaction whether I liked the deal or didn't like the deal until probably the next day, when I was kind of able to, see what they got back, gather the thoughts a little bit from the initial shock from trading Sauce, who he just got the contract back in July. But the Jets get 2 first-round picks, 2026 and 2027. They also get A.D. Mitchell. Colts get Sauce. What are your thoughts on this move from, an outside perspective? A major trade, definitely the biggest since the Micah Parsons trade just a couple months ago.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think if you're the Jets, if you're going to fire sale right, and I think they did so. You just mentioned it with what they got back. I mean, we're talking about now you have 2 firsts in 2026, 2 second-round picks in 2026, and as of now, 3 first-round picks in 2027. So just going off your point of, well, they're not really tearing it down. Yes, you are, and I'm right with you. The whole point of tearing it down is to accumulate a bunch of draft picks, in which they did successfully. And I mean, truthfully, I hate to say it. I don't want to step on your toes here, but the Jets aren't going to be good for some time. So why hold on to that core and not win anything when you could trade your guys away, try to build back up. You don't want a bunch of guys, and we've seen it with Quinnen, who we'll get into here a little differently. You don't want your guys sitting around playing for an organization 5-6 years on hand, unhappy, because then it gets to the point they don't want to be there. They are eventually going to get traded. They're not going to really give their all to win football games, and they avoided that with Sauce, way in advance. And I know it's crazy because I'm looking at the trade. I'm like, he just signed an extension, but I like the move. I'm not mad at it. I like the move from the Jets' perspective. You get a bunch of first-round picks, and then you get A.D. Mitchell, who we did just talk about off air, kind of buried on the depth chart just with the mistake that he made earlier this year. But you look at all the other weapons for the Colts. He really wasn't going to touch the field as much as he probably should have, especially with those expectations that we both had for him when he was coming out of Texas, and we kind of looked at draft stuff last year. So I like the move. Obviously, they need some more help on the offensive end. The defense kind of takes a hit, but offensively, A.D. Mitchell gets a new spot to kind of flourish. It's a change of scenery. So let's see what him and Garrett Wilson can do. Hopefully the offense can figure it out. But on both sides of it, I'm not mad at it. I mean, again, bunch of first-round draft picks for the Jets. Colts seem like they're kind of in win-now mode. This is the way to do it. This defense is already very solid. You get an all-pro corner. I like the move on both sides.
Yeah, from the Colts' perspective, this is kind of them officially stamping that we're going all in. They needed corner help. They get corner help. And that's one other thing that I do want to make clear. I've also seen this, and this is common amongst all fan bases. When a player leaves, you tend to not trash him, but you tend to kind of discount his value. Sauce is still a very good cornerback. The amount of Jets fans that I've already seen this week say, the Colts can have him, all this stuff. Sauce wasn't even that good anyway, only 3 interceptions in 55 games. He made 2 All-Pros. He was a Defensive Rookie of the Year. And while the box score numbers might not pop out with Sauce, this is a guy who, you look at a lot of the advanced stuff. Is he Pat Surtain? No, I think that's clear. But he's still a top 5 corner, in my opinion, in the NFL, and still a very good player. And I think his value shows by what you got back in return. If he was so bad, if he wasn't a good corner, why did you get 2 first-round picks and a young receiver in return who's only in his second year? Same thing with Quinnen. Everyone's like, oh, Quinnen, he doesn't get many sacks. He's the best run-defending defensive tackle in the NFL, and he's had no help around him. He's eating up double teams all the time. If you watch him play, instead of just looking at the box score numbers, you watch the games, look at some of the other stuff with Quinnen Williams, still a very good player, which we'll get to here in a second. Again, the reason why he got a big return. So the Colts are getting a very good one in Sauce, and with both Sauce and Quinnen, from a Jets fan, you wish him nothing but the best. They've been awesome here. And I think, when you look at what the Jets did with Sauce's contract, it's kind of interesting. They put the contract together in case a trade would be made. And that's kind of an interesting thing to think. But when Darren Muji spoke after the deadline was over, he mentioned that. And when you do look at some of the contract details, they can get out of it. I mean, it's really is crazy to think that the contract doesn't actually kick in until 2 years from now, because he's still playing under his rookie contract this year, and he has the 5th-year option next year. So it actually doesn't kick in until 2027, but 5 months later, he's traded anyway. And I think Glenn and Muji want a certain type of player on this team. They want to build an identity, and clearly their reason to giving the Sauce contract, and Garrett too, but specifically Sauce, because he's the one that got traded, is to show him, look, here's your money. You've earned it these last couple of years. Believe in our vision, trust our vision. But there was still that evaluation phase. And clearly 8 games in, they feel that he doesn't fit what they want for whatever reason that is. They have AZ Thomas, who has done some good things in the playing time he's gotten. Last week, actually stepping in for Sauce, or 2 weeks going to go now before the bye week, stepping in for Sauce against the Bengals, actually played pretty well. So it feels like kind of the Jets thought process in it. But anytime you get 2 first-round picks for a non-quarterback, I think is a really good thing, in my opinion. And I do like this deal from the Jets standpoint. At first, the shock, you kind of hate it, but understanding it and seeing the value you get back, you like it more, and you understand it from really both sides, as you mentioned as well, the Colts going all in here. Now, one addition to this trade was A.D. Mitchell. What was your thoughts on this? Because A.D. Mitchell is kind of the forgotten piece of this trade, but he is something to keep an eye on. Second-year receiver, 52nd overall, highly drafted day 2 pick out of Texas. Hasn't done a whole lot with the Colts. Kind of got buried in that receiver room with Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, and Michael Pittman. What are your thoughts on A.D. Mitchell and the potential he has moving forward? Because he's a player that I am intrigued about with more opportunities, with more play time, which he will get with the Jets and a depleted wide receiver room, and the potential for the future with him.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, it's a change of scenery, which is sometimes exactly what you need. Like a guy in his second year just didn't forget how to play football. He didn't lose all his intangibles. He doesn't just suck overnight. It's just like you're saying with Sauce, sometimes the fit is not there or the fit is not what you thought it was going to be. And I think that's the case with A.D. Mitchell. I mean, he came in, you kind of expected him to be that wide receiver 2 when he got drafted to the Colts, but wasn't able to really flourish with quarterback play. Not like it's any better where he's going right now, but this is also, I believe, Justin Fields is not coming back next year. At least I don't think Justin Fields will be back next year. I know he's on like a 2-year deal, I think, but I think he will not be the starter. Even if he is back, he's not going to be the starter. He'll be the backup. But this is kind of a move to, one, help more develop and further develop Justin Fields, because right now it's Garrett Wilson and who else? You have no one else to throw the ball to. So that gives you another piece that opens up the offense a little more, helps Justin Fields continue to develop. And I know college and the NFL level are completely different, but you look at all the weapons that he had in college, and that's why he was successful in college. He had a lot of guys more than capable of route running. You talked about the separation with A.D. Mitchell off air, being able to create separation, catch tough passes in traffic, those type of things. You only have Garrett Wilson. And I don't think there's a lot of teams, respectfully, a lot of quarterbacks, even Mahomes probably won't be good in this offense with only Garrett Wilson. So another piece continues to help build his confidence, open up some other things for Brees. So I like it. I mean, there's no point in letting a guy with this much talent that we especially seen how good he was in college sit there, buried on the depth chart, not going to get any playing time. So it was a good thing they moved him. When they moved him, now you got, I believe, 9 more games to go to kind of see what A.D. Mitchell can bring with this team. And, hey, maybe this is a piece. We're going into next year. You go draft the quarterback. You still have Brees, you still have Garrett Wilson. And you're like, look, we can be a very good offense with the right quarterback and underneath the right coordinator. So I like it.
Yeah, and you talk about some of the separation stuff, just some of the numbers here I had in front of me, and I've also been kind of diving into a little bit of last year's tape, couple clips from him. Second best separation grade on vertical routes last year, and the third best separation grade on in-breaking routes, but he was with a quarterback in Anthony Richardson who had a 47.7% completion percentage. Now, Fields isn't that much better, but even if you see A.D. Mitchell getting open, getting targeted, even if it's misses, seeing him being an option for the quarterback, whoever that is, whether it's Tyrod Fields, Brady Cook at this point, one of us, I don't know. But seeing that is, I think, the biggest thing with A.D. Mitchell and even John Mechie, who they got back in the Michael Carter deal. Can one of those guys be your wide receiver 3 of the future? You want to even throw Arian Smith in that conversation as well, because then you put yourself in a position where wide receiver 1, Garrett Wilson, if you have your wide receiver 3 in A.D. Mitchell, shows you enough. You still have him under contract for another 2 years. And then all you have to do then would be find your wide receiver 2. It makes things a little bit easier in the offseason. And that wide receiver 2, maybe that comes with the Colts pick in the first round this year. Maybe that comes second round. Maybe they approach the wide receiver 2 and say, let's get a rental and go Jeremiah Smith in 2027. They have 3 draft picks in 2027. I mean, the possibilities for that draft class is obviously sky high. People think it's historically good. So, you know, as a Jet fan, here we are, right? 2 years away from being 2 years away. We got to wait until 2027 now. I've already seen fans say, don't draft the quarterback this year. Wait until like Julian Sane and those guys are out in 2027. So basically tank for another year. That's what it sounds like. I don't know how much tanking I can take. But, you know, we're built for it. We've been through it before. But yeah, overall, so grades as we kind of close out the Sauce trade. What would be the grade to give out here?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with A for the Jets. Like I said, you you cleaned house, but you loaded up on draft picks, which, I think is a good thing. And for the Colts, I'm gonna go B plus. I mean, I know some people probably feel like they gave up a lot, and kind of when this trade first broke, and the details came out, I also thought, hey, yeah, that is a lot. But first round draft picks don't always work out anyway. So why not go out and get a guy at help that you needed? You did get rid of a receiver that was supposed to, again, be a very key piece to your offense. But with Tyler Warren coming over, and I said off air, with Tyler Warren coming over, now Alex Pierce kind of getting more involved as more of a multi-target guy, not just a few big plays. Josh Downs obviously very good. A.D. Mitchell had no room to flourish. Once again, send him somewhere where he can prosper. So I like it. I'll go B plus for the Colts.
Yeah. I'm going to go A as well for the Jets. I think the value you got back was very good. The 2 first-round picks, A.D. Mitchell. I think with all these trades, really, with the Jets, these are the grades right now. But ultimately, what these trades will be graded on, I've said this a couple of times, the difference between Tuesday going down as one of the best days in Jets history versus one of the worst days in Jets history will be what Darren Mucci and Aaron Glenn do with these picks. Because if these draft picks turn into a franchise quarterback, an elite wide receiver, whatever, somebody else in an elite defensive tackle, or to fill Quinn's shoes, or another great corner or safety help, whatever, build out this roster, then you're talking about an A plus great day. But if it turns into a couple of busts, a swing and miss on the quarterback, and you're looking back on this and saying this was, not the bad trades, but bad picks more so, I'm going to give the Colts a C plus. Maybe it's a little low. Here's my problem with the Colts. It's not so much sauce. Just after watching them last week, I just don't know if this moves enough to put them over the top. And it's not sauce. It's more so like, is Daniel Jones legit, or is he back to being Daniel Jones? And I don't want to make that this trade is bad, but when you give up 2 first-round picks and a young receiver, that's supposed to be like the move that puts you over the top. I don't know if it's going to be enough to put them over the top, just because of some of the questions now all of a sudden that arise with Daniel Jones once he goes on the road and faces a good team, not even necessarily a good defense. So C plus there. I'll give an A for the Jets. Another trade here, Quinnen Williams. I'll hand this one over to you. Cowboys get Quinnen. Jets get a 2026 second, 2027 first. Mozzie Smith also thrown in the deal as well. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, Mozzie Smith was a guy they drafted in the first round a few years ago who just did not work out. He's been a healthy scratch, seems like almost every game this year. So kind of sounds like me being a hater, but it's just the truth. I'm glad they got rid of him. You want to see your first round picks producing on the field. He wasn't doing that. And for a run defense for a defense in general, that's been atrocious and cannot stop your local 8U Pop Warner football team, whatever the case is, I like this move. I mean, Quinn is, you can still say, the best interior D tackle in football. He kind of, I don't think he's reached his prime yet. I still think he is probably going to get there very soon now with this change of scenery. So I like it. It's a lot to say on it, but it's not a lot to say on it. I think my big thing is just finally seeing Jerry Jones say, hey, we need this. We need help in this position. Let's go out and get it. Was a sigh of relief, because there's no way you can sit back and watch this team for the rest of the season if they can make a push at the playoffs. And I know people are saying, "Oh, season's over. Look at the record. Look at this." This team was 3-5, just lost to Tennessee, I believe, on Sunday or Monday night. Traded for Amari Cooper a few years ago and made a push and ended up going to the playoffs. We have seen Cincinnati so many times come back and make pushes to the playoffs. Same with the Rams. So the season's not over until the season's over. So it's like, is this going to heal all? Is this the Band-Aid for all wounds? No, it's not. But you still have a very, very good offense, a top 5 offense, a defense that needed some help. We got some help. And now you have a guy that can't stop the run and just a big body on that front line that clears up more space for the linebackers to blitz, for the DNs to kind of be a lot more one-on-one. You have to pay more attention to Quinnen. So I really like this move for Dallas. We will see what it brings. Obviously not this week, but next week with Dallas being on the bye. But I love it. And that could just be a biased Cowboys fan, but I love it.
Yeah, no, I think it's I think it's a kind of a win-win, I guess, again, because I really like the value the Jets got back. The Jets getting a first and a second for forget Mozzie Smith for a second, but getting a first and a second for a player that didn't want to be here is very good value in my opinion. And it now sets him up with 3 first-round picks in 2027, 5 first-round picks total over the next 2 drafts. And in total, they've got 9 picks in the first 2 days of the next 2 drafts, 8 of those coming in round 1 and 2. So they're fully loaded. I have no issue from the Cowboys trade standpoint. I've seen a lot of people crush this trade with the Cowboys. But I mean, if we're being honest, if the Cowboys traded for Jamar Chase and I don't know, pick another player. What's another I don't know. They paired Jamar Chase with CeeDee Lamb. They have George Pickens, I don't know, or whatever. Think of any great player out there that the Cowboys
could trade
for. They'd get bashed. I've seen some people say this is an F for the Cowboys. I actually think maybe I'm crazy. I actually think this is a better trade for the Cowboys than the Sauce trade is for the Colts. Personally. Maybe I'm crazy. But
I agree.
The Cowboys desperately needed defensive line help. And they got defensive line help. Not only a guy that can stop the run, which is a problem for Dallas, as well as stopping the run, but also a guy that can get to the quarterback, which has also been a problem. Not that this is like the Micah Parsons replacement, but they need another elite player on the defensive line since Micah Parsons left or got traded. And they kind of get that here with, or not kind of, they do get that here with Quinnen Williams. And even if people, I think the biggest thing has been, they're 3-5-1. They just lost to Jacoby Brissett and the Cardinals. And I think that's a big reason why people are crushing Dallas and they only have a 7% chance of making the playoffs and all those different things. But this is not even just more so this year too, but in the future as well. Even if they don't make the playoffs this year, you still have Quinnen under contract. He's kind of the new foundational build around piece on that defensive line as you try and reshape, retool this defense. So I don't even necessarily view this as an all-in move just for this year, but also moving forward with Quinnen Williams. And some people can use Quinnen and say, oh, well, he's entering year 8 next year. He's going to be 28 years old. He's almost 30. Let's not act like this guy's 35 years old. This guy's not 30. He's not in year 17. He's not Calais Campbell. Where he's got
if he was, we still see Calais Campbell and forgot his name off the top of my head that quick. The guy from New Orleans who's been there forever.
Cam Jordan.
Yeah, Cam Jordan. Like those guys are older and still have very
stuck in New Orleans.
What a guy. I wish he would have been shipped, but I mean, we see those guys still have a big impact on the field. So like, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? And I know we haven't mentioned it because it's not really a big part of the trade deadline, but you think about it, you look at it in hindsight, you've turned Micah Parsons into Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark, which are 2 very good players to plug up that middle, and Logan Wilson, which you gave up for a bag of Skittles because our linebackers, they play like they have blindfolds on. They literally play like they're about to guess what hole to run through, and sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. So I'm not mad at it because, like you just said it perfectly, this is not just a rental for 9 more games and then, okay, well, we might have to see what, happens in the offseason. They're going to resign him or not. No, they have him under contract. Like the only issue we have, not calling it an issue, but the only signing that you can say is a rental is George Pickens, which they have to figure out the deal eventually. But Quinnen is going to be there. So this is long-term. This is not for the next 9 games, but like you said it, Dallas can't do anything right under the public eye, so it doesn't matter who it is. They got bashed for it, but you traded a first rounder and a second rounder, which you look at how Dallas first round and second round picks played out, they have not worked out. I'm just going to throw out a few guys there. Taco Charlton, Mozzie Smith, Luke Schoonmaker. So they don't always work out. It's not guaranteed. But now you get two very good players. You get a good linebacker who I know Cincinnati, things didn't work out. I think you end up losing his spot. But whatever the case is, it's an upgrade. Jerry said, hey, we needed help at these positions. We went out and got help at those positions, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree. And you make a good point, too, and I was going to bring that up. This is kind of more of the return from the Micah Parsons trade as well. Now you also add Quinnen. You already have Kenny Clark, so you slowly build this thing back up. Yeah, I have no issue for this trade with the Cowboys, and if this was, I don't know, pick another team that makes this trade, they probably praise it. Absolutely. I don't know what other team was in need of. Love it. Yeah, yeah. I have no issue with it from the Cowboys' perspective, and I also really like it from the Jets' perspective. It's, in my opinion, I think both sides got a good end of it, and yeah, like Quinnen's still got a lot of gas left in the tank, and I also think it's a lot of people thinking that all of a sudden Quinnen's just not good, which is just not true. Again, people that just want to look at the box score stuff, then sure, he's not good. He's got one sack, but when you actually watch him play down in and down out, it's a lot different. And even break down some of the advanced stuff, best run defending, defensive tackle. We've mentioned all those things. We've hit all those things. So what would be your grade on this trade? And actually, one quick thing with Mozzie Smith, I don't have very high belief in him. He's not going to fill Quinnen Williams' shoes. But I think at best case scenario for the Jets is if he can just fit into being a rotational defensive tackle, like just depth. I don't think that'll probably happen. This is probably a guy that's plays out the rest of this year, probably comes into training camp next year, competing, and probably gets cut. Maybe, but he's not going to live up to the first round pick billing that he was drafted for. He's not going to fill Quinnen Williams' shoes. So don't get too excited about Mozzie Smith. I think best case scenario, he's a depth piece moving forward. But what would be your grade for both sides here?
I gave it an A. You gave up a first, a second, and a seventh for a very good D tackle, and a linebacker is what you needed. So I like that. I know people hate it, but I like it. It's an A to me.
Yeah. And then from the Jets standpoint, I would give it an A. And I think Cowboys too. I think it's pretty balanced in terms of what the Jets are able to get back and what the Cowboys are able to receive. I don't think it's lopsided either way. I think Indy's definitely more lopsided than Dallas' standpoint. All right, a couple other trades here. Jacoby Myers to Jacksonville, kind of a weird one. How does this help the Jaguars? We were kind of talking about this off air. Is this the key to unlocking Trevor Lawrence? Liam Cohen can't do it. Brian Thomas Jr. couldn't do it. Is it Jacoby Myers? Is Trevor Lawrence finally going to get out of the, I don't know, mid zone?
No, I don't think it was a great trade. I don't think it was a great trade for Jacksonville just because, I mean, Jacoby Myers wanted out of Vegas. Like, we've known this for a while.
Yeah.
But, yeah, what is Jacoby Myers going to do for the offense that makes them contenders? Like, absolutely nothing. I mean, Brian Thomas has been horrible this year. This is to look at the standpoint that I'm looking at it from. Brian Thomas has been horrible this year. I think maybe it's me. I drafted him in fantasy, so I could be the problem. But he's been awful. Very, very bad. Travis Hunter's now hurt, and Travis Hunter's a weird one because it's like no one kind of knew what to expect from him coming into this year. How much offense would he play? How much defense would he play? So I don't know what to say about Travis Hunter, to be honest, but he hasn't done anything offensively to light up the box score or anything, or be that piece that further helps Trevor Lawrence. So Jacoby Myers, I guess, it seemed more like hey, you want out of here, just come over to Jacksonville. Like, we got you. And I kind of think he's kind of just like a glorified wide receiver too, I guess. Like, the guy's had 1,000-yard season. I think his best year in terms of touchdown came in 2023. I could be wrong, but I think that year he had 8 touchdowns. Other than that, I don't think he's had more than 5. So, like, he's not doing nothing special, nothing productive on the field. And, hey, if you want to say, well, look, he's had Mac Jones and New England, and then he
Hey,
had
Mac Jones is good now.
Mac Jones is good now though. So
Better
I
than Trevor
mean,
Lawrence.
not a hot take. Mac Jones and the Niners are looking obviously come off a bad week against Houston, but
Yeah.
they're looking pretty good. But yeah, I mean, then when you had Mac Jones, now you come over there, you had was it Minshew and they had Aiden O'Connell and the list of quarterbacks that the Raiders has had. So I guess he hasn't had great quarterback play. Well, guess what? You still don't. But we will see what he brings to the Jags offense.
Yeah, no, he went from bad to mid.
Basically, hey, I went from a trash quarterback to hey, just mid. Now, not great, not good, good enough to get some targets. At least Trevor Lawrence will throw him the ball, but nothing special.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't fully. I'll say this. I understand the reasoning behind the trade.
Yeah,
I guess. But I don't know. The Jacoby Myers, he wanted out. I just don't really know how this benefits the Jaguars a ton. I know, Brian Thomas Jr. has had a really bad year. And you start to wonder what his future is. There was some rumors that he actually popped up in some trade rumors. As a matter of fact, the Quinnen trade, supposedly the Jets and Jaguars talked about a potential Quinnen trade.
I saw that.
And Brian Thomas Jr. supposedly was involved in it, but I believe the full report, it was from Schultz. The full reporting, I don't know if it was Quinnen for Brian Thomas straight up, or Jags didn't want to give up more draft capital, or the Jets didn't want, whatever it was. But either way, you start to wonder what his future is now. Travis Hunter obviously has not been, he's on IR anyway, but he hasn't quite lived up to the billing that I think they thought they were getting out of him. Jacoby Myers is a free agent at the end of the year. Is he really going to stay long-term in Jacksonville to give up a 4th and a 6th? It's just, to me, it's a big win for to Vegas. They're not going anywhere this year. He was a free agent at the end of the year, and he wanted out. And they got a 4th and a 6th for him. Now, a 6th is not big, but a 4th-round pick is, you could find pieces in the 4th round.
Mm-hmm.
You can find a wide receiver in the 4th round of Jacoby Myers' caliber, if we're being honest. Right? I think we've said this many times. Jacoby Myers is a number 1 on a bad team, but he's probably a number 2, a number 3 on a borderline playoff team. Probably on a playoff team, he's probably actually a number 3. A 8 and 9, 7 win, 9 win team that's maybe just on the outside, maybe a wide receiver too. But I don't really know how this helps the Jaguars. Jacoby Myers he's had a down year. He's a free agent at the end of the year. Who knows if they're going to bring him back? You still have the Brian Thomas Jr. So Travis Hunter hasn't shown enough. Trevor Lawrence hasn't played well enough. Like, is he just going to come in and solve all the problems?
I mean, I guess that's what they're hoping. And I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I've not watched enough Jacksonville this year, but even from the lack of not watching Jacksonville, you can still see they're not doing anything. Jacksonville is a team that has just not been talked about this year. But again, you said it. Liam Cohen was supposed to come over and be the savior. He went to Tampa. He saved Baker, helped Tampa, and we're expecting that to happen here. And it's just like, what is going on? So I bring up the fact that I haven't watched a lot of Jacksonville because just like, I don't want to blame it all on Trevor Lawrence. And I know, obviously fantasy football is not real football. It's not what's shown on the field. But again, as someone that like has Brian Thomas, like I paid more attention to Jacksonville than I probably usually would. And Trevor Lawrence is not getting help from his guys. He's not getting, I think they lead, I could be wrong, but I think they lead the league in drops. I think my buddy who likes Jacksonville was telling me, or at least they are up there, top 5 in terms of drops. And a lot of that has to do with Brian Thomas. Travis Hunter has not done much either. So I don't think Jacoby Myers can come over there and, save everything, but I honestly, he could be a spark. I think this is going to be a spark, but you have to make this spark count. If you're just going to let him walk in, the off season, then this was just a bonehead move from the front office of Jacksonville, and it absolutely made no sense. But if Brian Thomas can end up bouncing back and he looks better and looks what we expected him to be, Jacoby Myers kind of steps into that two role and maybe Travis bumps down to 3 and less of him on offense and more of him on defense. Maybe I could see it working out that way, but other than that, this is not, I'm right with you, like this is not a move that is going to help you compete in the AFC, let alone your division. Like this isn't going to help you compete in your division against the Colts who are now gotten better. So yeah, I'm kind of scratching my head on this one.
Yeah, definitely. Clear win for the Raiders. Questionable from the Jaguar standpoint. I guess you understand that. I don't know. They could have. I guess you understand the need at wide receiver. It's just maybe not the right person for that. Jacksonville's in a weird spot where they are 5-3. They're still very much still in
like it.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it. I mean, they lost 2 in a row to Seattle and the Rams. They almost beat the Raiders. They almost lost to the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've got Houston coming up here without it'll be Davis Mills, right?
Yeah, I think I didn't see a clear out for CJ Stroud, but like it hasn't been a report that he's clearly out. But I checked earlier, just looking at some underdog picks, and the big O, red O, is next to his name. I'm assuming he's not playing this week.
Yes. Davis Mills. So you feel like you probably win that game. Interesting with Jacksonville. Trade grades, I would give the Raiders an A. Jags probably like a C.
Yeah, I went B. I went B plus for the Raiders. 4th and a 6th. I mean, then again, I probably should go a little higher. I think I'm gonna go A because now that you mentioned it, I mean, he wanted out.
Yeah, the only reason I give him an A, not so much on the return, it's just what they got back for the situation. He's going to be a free agent, and he wants out. Those two things usually don't net you a very good return. A 4th for Jacoby Myers, that doesn't sound too bad to me.
Yeah, I like that. I think I'm going to go 8 as well. Like, once you again throw in the fact that, I mean, he was probably not coming back this offseason anyway, so you kind of dump him when you can. And I'm with you. Jacksonville, I gave it a C minus. Again, we'll see what it brings. I mean, this could be a trade that we're talking about is so horrible and they make a push. Because I didn't know Jacksonville was 5-3. This does not seem like a 5-3 team. And I mean, they're on the verge. If they're definitely in the hunt. If they are not in the top 7 seed right now, they're definitely in the hunt. So if they make a push and this offense looks a little better, then we can revisit it like, hey, we were wrong. But as of right now, I'm gonna go C minus.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. One more trade here. Seattle adds Rashid Shaheed, so he's out in New Orleans. He's got to feel pretty good. 2026 4th, 2026 5th, so a little bit higher in the return for Shaheed from Seattle's standpoint or New Orleans standpoint than Jacoby Myers. I honestly like this trade for both sides. I do. You know, I think from the Saints side of things, you just got to add up as much draft capital as you can. You're not going anywhere. You're 1-8. You're going to need a quarterback. I mean, you got Tyler Shough playing. Alvin Kamara looks like he's 100 years old out there. Somebody please save Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, any of those guys. You know, Kellen Moore. Can we even grade Kellen Moore? You know, this is funny. And I know we got to get to other topics, but this might be one of the most useless seasons for any team because you can't even grade Kellen Moore this year if you're a Saints fan because he has Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shough.
Yeah.
And no talent. And they got going into the year, they had no talent other than Chris Olave. That was it. He doesn't get dealt. He still sticks around, which is interesting. I feel like for 2 straight years now, Olave's just been in trade conversations and just doesn't get traded. So we'll see whatever happens with him. But the Saints, I actually don't mind this trade for them because they just get picks. They get value.
Yeah.
And I think this is a good trade too for the Seahawks because to me, their passing attack, their receiving game, it gets better. And he kind of, you know, Cooper Kupp's been disappointing this year. Shaheed kind of steps in ahead of him. JSN's been dominant. I'll be honest, we didn't talk about it much, but JSN You want to talk about MVPs? He should be in the he could be in the conversation.
Yes.
And I'm kind of kicking myself for not bringing him up last week, but JSN has got to be in that conversation too. I mean, he's just been phenomenal this year. Sammy Dimes gets another weapon. What are your takes on this one? And the Saints are the Saints.
Well, I was laughing to start the segment because, I mean, we're talking like I know Chris Olave has to be just in disbelief. And you mentioned it 2 years now. 2 years we're talking about, off season, trade deadline, off season, trade deadline. All right, Chris Olave might leave. Probably New England, probably Washington. Like that's been the case. And then Shaheed goes before Olave. I would be just disgusted. But for Seattle, I like the move. Shaheed to me, he's not your route and I could be wrong. Again, I don't watch the Saints. Nobody watches the Saints. Saints fans don't even watch the Saints. So I could be wrong when I say this, but every time I see like a Raheem Shaheed highlight, it's him running the go ball, and that's kind of all it is to it. Nothing special. He's not going to run the whole route tree. So, which is nothing wrong with that, though, because for Seattle, and someone brought this point up to me at work, which is kind of actually valid, when I brought up the point where they're like, this is not a wide receiver 2 guy you're going to line up out there to run your curls and your drags and all that type of stuff. It was like, hey, he's more of a decoy to run as fast as you can, free up the middle for JSN. And when you look at it that way, yeah, I like it. And I mean, Seattle, Seattle's fun to watch. We can talk about it another time. We haven't really talked about them a lot, but Seattle is very fun to watch. Their offense is fun to watch. But now, Shaheed, you now have 3 guys in Torrey Horton, which is starting to come into his own. But Torrey Horton, JSN, and Shaheed, which are going to be absolute like nightmares for defensive backs because Sam Darnold can now, forget it. Shaheed's down there somewhere. JSN's down there somewhere. Like he can finally do that, and he did it last year in Minnesota. Look how it worked out for him. I know the playoffs and the end of the year went ugly, but we've seen Sam Darnold best when he has weapons to just throw the ball down the field. And those 50-50 balls are not 50-50. They're more 60-40 going his way. You now get that. Shaheed is a very great flyer. JSN, at this moment, not saying, all around, but at this moment, best receiver in football. You can still argue Chase, but JSN is the best receiver in football. Torrey Horton is coming along. I like this move for Seattle. And I'm going to say this puts him over the top. That's just me.
I'm glad that you said that there at the end because I was going to kind of take this conversation to that direction anyway. When you look at the NFC right now, it's crazy because it's just with all the teams kind of crowded. You've got a bunch of 6-2 and like just it's pretty crowded with right. You have a 6-2 Eagles, 6-2 Bucks, 6-2 Seahawks, 6-2 Rams. What are the Lions? What are the Packers? What are the Niners? Like they've dealt with so many injuries, yet they're still kind of treading water. How long can they continue that though? The NFC is crazy. I think most people would agree that the top 2 seeds in the NFC probably aren't the best 2 teams in the NFC. Eagles and Bucks.
The best teams in the NFC play in the same division, and that's
I would say the Rams. Seahawks and the Rams. I agree. And I was thinking about this yesterday, getting ready for today's episode. If Darnold plays like this, there's no reason the Seahawks into January. Let me make that clear. There's no reason the Seahawks can't get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, this is a team, and I mean, I know they made a few additions here during like the offseason that just passed, but this team won 10 games last year and missed the playoffs.
Yep.
So this isn't a team that just came out of nowhere and Sam Darnold and this squad just came out of nowhere and surprising everyone. They've been good.
Yeah, and they did it with Geno Smith, who looks awful now.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
I agree with you. I agree. I mean, defensively, they have looked good. Like, they don't need a top 10 defense. This is a good defense where we talked about if earlier a few episodes ago, where if like Dallas had Seattle is what Dallas needs to be. Put it that way. Where the offense is so great and it's so explosive, the defense is good enough. And we see how it works out. We are kind of at that stage in the NFL where you don't need the 2000 Ravens defense or whatever the case is. You just need a defense that can hold their own while your offense goes out and do what they need to do. Seattle, I think, is the perfect example of that. And I'm in agreement with you where if Sam Darnold does not turn the ball over and he plays like this in January, even if he does, which, he's not going to.
Yeah.
But every week he's not, I'm saying that as far as like, he's not going to go out there every week and look like how he did against Washington.
Yeah.
That's not going to be an every week thing. But if Sam Darnold can just go out there and continue to take care of the ball and get points on the board, get in the field goal range, or whatever the case is, while this defense does what they do, yes, they will spoil my Rams Super Bowl pick. It's looking very probable right now because they've played good, and I don't think they get talked about enough.
Yeah, the schedule makers were cooking with this one because the Seahawks and Rams still have to play each other twice next week and then Thursday night in Week 16.
Yeah.
So very much looking forward to those two games because second half of the season with these two teams fighting in that division, fighting in the NFC, that's going to be great. But, it's funny, and we'll get to the Broncos here next and the Giants and underdog picks and wrap things up. But, every year, right, you see first-time GMs and things like that get poached from winning organizations. We saw Borgonzi this year from the Chiefs, whether it's Glenn from the Jets or the Lions going to the Jets, whether it's not to just throw Jets examples out there, but Douglas from Philly and under Howie Roseman, who year after year has that team competitive, whether it's even Muji from Denver, a little different because Denver just kind of turned it around, but saw the turnaround with Sean Payton, although we're going to probably bash Denver here in a couple minutes, so maybe that's not the time. What are some other examples? There's probably others of GMs from winning organizations like the Chiefs. Who else? Just Kellen Moore going to the Saints, head coach from the Eagles. What was it? Shane Steichen who came from the Eagles to the Colts?
Yeah. Believe it
right?
Wait.
Or was it Gannon? No, it was Steichen. They both went. Gannon and Steichen both went there from the Eagles.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Heck, Mike McDonald going from the Ravens, going to the Seahawks. I was thinking about this the other day and actually watching the Seahawks game on, when was it? Monday, not the other day. It was a couple weeks ago watching the Seahawks game on Monday night against the Texans. I'm surprised that more teams don't try and poach from Seattle. Like, I feel, and maybe it's just off the top of my head, but I can't tell you the last time, first-time GM, and like Pete Carroll going to the Raiders, that doesn't count. Like, when was the last first-time GM got hired from the Seahawks, or a first-time head coach got hired from Seattle? At least off the top of my head, I can't think of any. And it's weird because they're such a well-run organization year in and year out. They're competitive. Even in their down years, they went 10-7 and 9-8. The back-to-back, they haven't made the playoffs in 2 years. Their record was 9-8 and 10-7. Like, that's their down year. You go back to 2017, they were 9-7. They missed the playoffs. Their worst season was 2021 when they went 7-10. And consistently they're in the playoffs. And this is going even way back before Pete Carroll, even going back to like Mike Holmgren and all those guys back in like the early 2000s and the late 90s. They were consistently in the playoffs. Like, they've been the Ravens, the Chiefs more recently, now the Eagles. They're like the poster child, I guess, of just consistent success. I'm always kind of curious why more teams don't poach from them. An assistant GM, whatever, but kind of just a rambling at this point. But anyway, Broncos, Raiders. This was good old classic Thursday Night Football on Prime Video. Makes you want to pull your eyes out. This was an awful football game. And the punt, they couldn't even punt correctly.
Yeah.
The Broncos punter had two terrible punts. They win 10-7. I'm sorry, but Bo Nix is terrible. He stinks. Can we officially say that? Like, the year 2 regression from Bo Nix is, and maybe it's just because I had such high expectations, but And I know he's got 18 touchdowns, which I believe is tied for second. I know the numbers don't look bad, but he was awful against Vegas. He completed under 50% of his passes against the Texans. He wasn't very good against the Giants until late. He's missing receivers wide open. He was awful. What are your thoughts on Denver? They are probably the worst 8-2 team I think I've ever seen.
I said that when I woke up on Tuesday morning. I turned the game off at halftime. I was so bored of punt, 3 and out.
Same, I actually did turn it off as well.
Worst team in 8-2 football, and I'm glad you brought up the point of Bo Nix and just the stats, because a box score watcher will look at Bo Nix and pull up Bo Nix's stats and, oh, he's doing so great.
Yep.
But if you watch Bo Nix, he's awful. He is awful. This team is awful. And I mean, 8-2, and it's so crazy because we talking about this team win the division to start the year, and it's like they're still in prime position to do so. But I don't think the Broncos winning the wild card with how bad they've been. And you look at just some of the games. Slow start against Tennessee, which they end up winning that one. 19-point comeback against Philly, where they looked awful in that one. You were down by, I believe, 30 to the Giants. You came back in that one. And then you couldn't even move the ball against the Raiders on Thursday night. There is nothing about this team that says to you, like, this is a very good team that will make some noise in the playoffs. This is a team, when you ask me, they go into, they'll win the division. So they will get a home playoff game. But, I mean, if just say the Chargers land in the playoffs, I don't think, like, the Chargers will go into Mile High and probably, or Empower, or whatever the stadium's called now, and beat Denver. And I truthfully believe that. The Chiefs will go in and beat Denver. There's a lot of teams right now. Well, let me rephrase. There's 2 teams right now that will go in and beat Denver in the playoffs. Luckily for Denver, you look at the rest of the AFC, and everyone is kind of terrible. So, besides the 2 in your division, but everyone else that you might have to face that will give you some competition, with being the Bills and the Colts are the 2 that stand out, you probably won't face them until the 3rd round, depending on how things shape up. But this is not a team built to make a good playoff run. Like, I have no faith in the Denver Broncos whatsoever. And the fact that they're 8-2 kind of still amusing me, because we can easily be talking about 2 more losses with the comeback against Philly and the comeback against the Giants. But, I mean, I'm going to say this so respectfully. When you were struggling against 3 of the worst teams in football, the Titans, the Jets, and the Raiders, I don't trust you come playoff time. And I do not trust Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos come playoff time. They are fraudulent, very fraudulent.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say there's a guarantee they're going to win the division, because they still got to play Kansas City twice. They lose both those games. I mean, they can very well lose to the Chiefs twice and the Chargers, who they already lost to. So there's a good chance that they could get swept by the Chargers. Now, that Chargers game's at home, but I mean, that doesn't matter. They barely beat the Raiders. They're terrible. And you make a great point about some of these teams that they've barely beaten. The Raiders, the Titans, the Jets. The Raiders have 2 wins. The Titans have 1 win, and the Jets have 1 win. The combined difference in those games was 13 points? Because they beat the Titans by 8, the Jets by 2, and the Raiders by 3. So, 13 points. And they are a combined Jets are 1-7, 2-7, so that's 3-14. And then the the Titans are 1-8, so that's 4-21.
Yep, that's correct.
And they've beaten them by a combined 13 points.
13 points.
And by the way, 2 of those games were at home, one of which was Cam Ward's debut. A rookie on the road in his first game, you barely beat him. The second game, a quarterback threw for negative 10 net passing yards. And didn't have a first down until late in the second quarter. Fields that day also became the second quarterback to, along with Zach Wilson, the other great Jets quarterback, to have as many, yards as completions? Or no, it's not yards as complete. I forget the stat. It was not a good stat. Very bad stat.
Yards is QBR. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I forget what it was. I have it. If I could find it.
Either way, it's not good.
Yeah, it's not good. It might be as many. I forget. Either way, you get the point. It's not good. Yeah, that's what we're trying to get at here. Here, I'm going to propose something that's crazy. You think if this might sound crazy, but I did hear it the other day, and I figured I'd bring it to the show. Sean Payton and Bo Nix are always kind of yelling at each other on the sideline. That's kind of normal, though. Like, that happens a lot. But you think there is part of Sean Payton deep down inside where if this continues and the Broncos look like an easy wild card exit right now? Or, I don't – if they get the number one seed, whoever plays them, they probably are going to get upset, even if you want to call that an upset. Do you think there's a world where if Peyton and Nix continues to play this way, Peyton says, I'm like over it, and they find somebody else? Like, that might be because they just drafted him. But
it's like I want to say I think he stays. But I feel like they draft or sign a quarterback for some competition.
Or if he stinks next year, 2027 class, you maybe have the real conversation.
Yeah. Then if he is awful next year, then you need to have that conversation about moving on from Bo Nix, trading Bo Nix, whatever the case is. Because again, there's no way this team is 8-2. There's no way this team is 8-2.
Yeah. I found the stat, by the way. Same number of completions as sacks. That's what it was. Fields that day completed 9 passes, got sacked 9 times.
It's not all. I mean, that we can say the bright side of Denver that we're talking about why they're 8-2 is that defense.
Yes,
the defense is very good. Nick Benito is phenomenal.
I mean, just and I'll just say this too, not to cut you off. The way they're winning these games is not sustainable. You can't the fourth quarter comebacks. Oh, we're a fourth quarter team. That's great. That's not going to survive in the playoffs. The way they're winning is not sustainable. Beating Philly the way they beat them with an 18-point fourth quarter can't continue to happen. Having to mount a 33-point quarter against that type of stuff's not going to fly in the playoffs. That type of stuff's not going to happen in the playoffs. Even Houston as well. I think they put up, was it 11 points? That was that weird 18-15 game. In the playoffs, it can't take you 3 quarters to wake up.
I mean, I think Kirk Herbstreit actually said that during the broadcast, middle of the second quarter, just going through, just like, this is a team you don't want to see in the fourth quarter. That's when they're trying to turn it up. That's the issue. That's kind of the problem. Like, this is not college football. Like, you're not going to sneak by on comebacks every week, no matter how much of the, cardiac kid you think you may be. That's not a way to be successful in the NFL because you're going to run in a team where, surprised they haven't. But you're going to run into a team where you are down in the fourth quarter. They're going to continue to put their foot on the gas, and you're going to get blowed out. And I feel like that will come playoff time.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very disappointed in the Denver Broncos hype that we put into them this year, and this is what it's turned out to be. And they're 8-2, and at the end of the day, a win's a win and a loss is a loss, and they've won 7 in a row. So for that measure, they're the hottest team in football, but you watch this team, they're not going anywhere. And prove us wrong. Go and beat Kansas City. And beat Kansas City. Beat them. Don't beat them with some crazy fourth quarter comeback. From quarter 1 to quarter 4, dominate them. Bo Nix, go out there and dominate. And we're kind of crushing all the box score watchers today with whether it's Quinnen Williams, whether it's Sauce. The box score watchers, please turn on the Denver Broncos. Because Bo Nix is not His seventh in yards and tied for second in touchdowns does not tell the story of the season. You watch Bo Nix play, he's been awful. The year two regression has been alarming. And if they're lucky. You know, if you gave Cincy's defense to Denver, they'd probably be 1-9 right now.
Give Dallas Denver's defense. They're probably undefeated. They're probably undefeated. I mean,
and opposite,
Cincy, they're probably undefeated.
Truthfully. Yeah. Oh yeah, but also if you remove Denver's defense and give them Cincy's defense, they're probably 1-9.
Absolutely.
I don't even know. Their one win that would probably stay would probably be the Jets.
And maybe not even then. What was that score? 13-11? I think that's what that game was. Not even then. This team probably has one win because what game, have offensively where you looked at Denver and you're just like, this is a really good offense. There has not been a week yet.
I guess against Cincy.
And that says a lot.
I think that was a 23, but it's Cincy. So
there's been two games where you said, oh, wow, this offense is very good. Cincinnati and Dallas, two of the worst defenses to ever step foot on the football field.
Yes. And that was also Cincy with Jake Browning.
Exactly.
Which couldn't do anything offensively. So who knows? And the Broncos defense is great. But who knows if Joe Flacco's playing in that game? They probably put up more than 3 points.
Exactly.
Now, other frauds also, we'll touch on them quickly here. Who's the bigger frauds? The Broncos or the Packers? I feel like
the Packers.
And I'm going to say why. I agree. I think it's the Packers. And the reason I think it's the Packers is the Super Bowl hype around Green Bay the minute they made the Micah Parsons trade was crazy. And you had the team already talking about the Super Bowl 2 weeks into the season. They ended up losing to Cleveland. They had that tie against Dallas. They lost to the Panthers at home. Unless the Panthers are legit.
The Panthers might actually be good.
You know, I will say, I don't know if the Panthers are good or not. I don't think they are. But I will say, though, with the Panthers, we were kind of right about that. We did say at the beginning of the season that Carolina could be like this year's version is kind of potentially on that Detroit trajectory where they stunk last year. Everyone's calling for Dave Canales' head. Then they have some late season success. And now they're like year 2 with Detroit, where Detroit went 9-8. They're 5-4. Do they win 8-9 games? Maybe they don't make the playoffs, but then next year is where you say, okay, they might be able to compete with the Bucs, and that's AFC South or NFC South, which I guess they still are. But yeah, Green Bay is. And can we be honest? Jordan Love is never going to elevate a team he can get the team to the playoffs. He's never going to elevate a team to a Super Bowl. I'm confident saying that now. I'll eat my words if they go on and win the Super Bowl, but Jordan Love's not it.
And to kind of bring up that point, at work last night, talking football with some people I work with, one guy's a Green Bay fan, and he looked at me in my face, and I guess he made a somewhat of a solid point. But he's like, hey, can you name one of our receivers, which will probably be a number 2 on a playoff team? So, that was a good point. Like, I don't think none of those guys, maybe Jayden Reed, I don't know. But then again, you don't have a bunch of trash receivers. Yeah. Your receivers are good.
And can we also say this too? Was that ever just elite great quarterbacks elevate receivers?
Exactly.
And as much as, and not to cut you off, but as much as, because this has been a story with Green Bay for a while, as much as we always talked about with Rodgers that they never drafted a receiver in the first round for him, it was never during the season was it a conversation under Aaron Rodgers. And I know he had Devontae Adams, which was an elite number 1. But outside of Devontae Adams, let's not act like he was loaded with – it wasn't like he had Devontae Adams and an elite number 2. But that was never a conversation under Rodgers during the year where it's like, oh, man, they don't have any receivers. It was Devontae Adams and everybody else, but Rodgers elevated. Jordan Love can't do that.
And, that's the point I was about to make. Like, it's like the organization or whatever you want to call it are choosing to go wide receiver by committee. You can go draft a wide receiver one. You can go trade for a wide receiver one.
Yeah.
But you are this great quarterback or exactly who has been
trade for
who's
somebody.
had his bags packed for the last few years where you can make trades, you choose not to make trades. So I don't want to hear my receivers, who will be number one on other teams? Look at the Chiefs. They don't have a solidified wide receiver one. They have a bunch of flyers. I know Rashee Rice is very good, but same with Kansas City, same with Buffalo, where these teams don't have wide receiver ones. They're kind of going by committee. I mean, heck, even the Chargers, where it kind of seems like if McConkey 1 week, next week it's going to be Keenan Allen. These quarterbacks are elevating the talent around them. Jordan Love is not. And I've said this when he got the contract. I said it before. Jordan Love got paid off for beating a Dallas Cowboys team in the playoffs who never show up come playoff time. He's not that good. He will not lead them to the Super Bowl. If he does find a way to lead them to the Super Bowl, I will still forever have Jordan Love hate because I just don't think he's that good. Everyone has a good run every once in a while. That's just going to be his, but they're not going to the Super Bowl with Jordan Love as their QB. Point blank.
The good old blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while.
That is correct. Hate watch forever lives here for Green Bay and Jordan Love. So I don't care what he does. It's not going to be good enough.
No, I agree. And big test coming up on Monday night. You all of a sudden lose to the Eagles and following that loss with the Panthers. Very quietly here.
Sound the alarms.
Sound the alarms. And the NFC North is kind of wide open. And you have to start to wonder. Now, this is getting a little crazy, but they're no shoo-in for the playoffs. Like, if they lose this week, they're going to be 5-3-1. If Detroit wins this week, I believe they face Washington with Marcus Mariota, right? Yeah. So they probably will. They're 6-3. And I know Green Bay technically has a tiebreaker with the whole tie. I think actually Detroit probably take over because they have the extra win. Either way, they're no shoo-in for the playoffs. They're 5-3-1. And if they lose this week, they're 5-3-1. It's not like they're 7-1, 8. That's the one thing with Denver is they're not going to miss the playoffs. They're 8-2, but they're not going to go far in the playoffs. Packers, forget making the playoffs. They got to get there first.
Because here's the thing: we talked about Seattle, we talked about the Rams. Those two are guaranteed to get in, almost guaranteed to get in.
Yeah.
Let's say we're talking about the Lions.
They'll get in. I think the Lions get in.
And the Bucks, that's already 4 there.
Yeah. And then
I think I mentioned Philly.
Did you mention the Rams?
Yeah, Rams.
Okay. And Philly, that's 5.
That's 5.
So
I mean,
Philly, just to make sure, Philly, Tampa, Seattle, Rams, Lions.
Yep, that's 5.
And then you have your San Fran.
San Fran can possibly get in. That's the one I had at 6. San Fran can possibly get in. So Green Bay is like maybe you're sneaking in at 7, but again, if Dallas somehow manages to go on a run here, it is going to sound crazy, but you can't necessarily count Carolina all the way out right now. They have a winning record. They are 5-4, so you got to account for Carolina. Maybe Minnesota makes a run. I'm not believing it, but just all in all, they're not a shoo-in to make the playoffs right now. And even if they are, I think they're similar to Denver. What says they get past the wild card round? Especially if they're on the road. What says they get past the wild card round?
Yes. Heck, even at home. This feels like with the way they lost to Carolina. It was 2021, right, when they lost to the Niners in the snow. Mm-hmm. The Robbie Gould game-winning field goal, I believe it was. This feels like they could be in for another one of those where they win the division and they face, I don't know, it's like the Rams or San Fran or like another warm weather team in the cold Lambeau. I could see them being bounced like that too. So I agree.
Yeah.
Anyway, one quick thing here before we get to our underdog picks. The Giants are a clown show. And we talked about this last year. And I think if we could have honestly copy and pasted our recordings from last year and put it into today's episode, and you would think it's the same. because it's the same conversation. There was reports that came out that the Giants were ready to fire Brian Daboll off the plane after Denver. There's now more reports coming out that Brian Daboll's good as gone, that Joe Schoen could potentially stay, but Daboll's gone. I've also seen some stuff where if the Giants lose this weekend in Chicago, Daboll might get canned. It's a train wreck. This was the risk you ran, though, with bringing these two back. There was no reason to bring these two guys back. There was, as much as I was more understanding with Daboll, and I think we both agreed, and I don't understand. I don't get the whole Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, they're both problems. Let me make that very clear. But this whole we're going to keep Joe Schoen and fire Brian Daboll makes no sense. We've already seen it fail. They did it with Gettleman, where he got to hire another coach, and it failed. You can't do this. You arranged marriage with a GM, Shane, because then you would have a head coach next year with the general manager on the hot seat. Then then Shane probably gets fired. Then it's a mess. Just fire them both. But the fact that I just want to get to this first. Why is Shane a longer leash than Daboll? To me, Shane's the bigger problem with Daboll, and I think we both agree with that. Daboll, and you want to give Shane credit for trading up and giving up the assets and finding a partner for Dart, fine. But that was all Daboll who wanted Dart. And early signs are he's hit on the quarterback. All Joe Schoen has done is completely tear this roster down. This roster stinks, and it's gotten worse. The moment Joe Schoen took over, all they talked about is, we're still dealing with a Dave Gettleman roster. We're still dealing with the Dave Gettleman roster. Guess what? The sad reality is the only good season you had was with Dave Gettleman's roster in your first year. Ever since you've been able to build it your way, the team stinks. And I understand Cam Scatterbu and Malik Neighbors got hurt. But how many times do we have to talk about the depth with this team being a problem? The depth stinks. Darius Slayton's not an NFL receiver. Wan'Dale Robinson has flashes, but come on. Who are we kidding? Wan'Dale Robinson's not a number one receiver. I mean, you have Bo Collins, Jalen Hyatt. These guys stink. I don't know what else to say.
That's it. Like you said, I think you said it perfectly. Where we were to go back from last year and now, it's the same exact thing, and that says a lot. Like, there's been no improvement. Like, we've talked about, we've bashed the Broncos, we've bashed the Panthers, who have made changes and moves to get better and improve and try to win games. The Giants are not trying to do that. And I know when we were, texting back and forth, I say this, but this is why this is a laughing stock of the NFL. You can't take the Giants seriously. And it kind of just sums up, like, the whole season sums up everything with how it's going, where it looks bad. You got Russ. Everything looks terrible. Oh, we need a tank. Jackson Dart gets in. You beat Philly. Oh, we're back. We're making pushes. Let's go. We finally figured it out. And now you're back to this, we stink again. Let's get rid of the coach. It's not the coach. It's the GM. And I mean, again, I'm going to say this. I don't know if who've watched Hard Knocks or not, but the GM sitting on the phone telling Saquon Barkley, hey, go test the market. If you don't find nothing, come back. That says everything you need to know about how that organization is ran and your general manager. So I say this with Dallas as well because it ties into each other. But no matter who you bring into coach, the coach will not be successful as long as the GM continues to run that organization to the ground, and that is the case with the Giants.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. And look, Daboll's far from perfect too. I mean, you go back and look at that Broncos game. A lot of that disaster falls on the play of Daboll, throwing on 3rd and 5, not juicing the clock. Those type of things were bad. And there's been other things with Daboll that have been a mistake. Look, at the end of the day, winning and losing these games and some of the in-game decisions and things of that nature do fall on the coach. But yeah, the roster he's been given has been very depleted. They both have to go. But this whole notion of Joe Schoen staying and Brian Daboll not doesn't make sense. Like, if there was one to stay, it would be, in my opinion, Brian Daboll. But they both have to go, and this was all too predictable. Last year, this was the same story. Do you find, like, what have they done to even potentially warrant another year? Especially in this city where coaches oftentimes are sometimes on the hot seat in year 2. I mean, heck, Aaron Glenn with this slow start now with these trades, him and Muji have guaranteed themselves 2 more years. But there was some, myself included, that said if they win one game this year, you have to think about this being a one and done. Now, they could win one game, they're going to stay because they've got to see, Woody's going to let them draft and try and build this thing their way. But, we're on year 4 of this. They stink, and the Giants have been embarrassed. Last year was their 100th season. They were embarrassed. This year, they're embarrassed. They're so far from what they once were. They're a train wreck, and I don't know how you bring both of them. One of them back. You have to get rid of both of them or keep both. Don't do this half partial firing. Now, do you think Dable gets fired during the season, or do you think they wait?
It's gonna be after the season. You might as well let him have his rest of the time with Dart if you do decide to move on. But I think end of the year he's probably more than likely gone.
Yeah, I agree as well. And the whole coaches getting fired middle of the year, it usually doesn't help. Some cases it does, but usually it doesn't. And usually the coach that takes over doesn't end up turning into the long term. Although what Jason Garrett actually did. That's one of the prime examples, I believe, right? Of taking over and in long term. Like Antonio Pierce with the Raiders, I guess, a more recent example. But all in all, it's tough. And I mean, just living through last year with the Jets, they actually got worse. So I don't think so either, but we'll see. Anyway, underdog picks. So last week was actually a very good week. You went 3-0. I went 2-1. So are we back?
We might be back.
12-15 on the year for me, 11-16 for you. So still got some room to climb here, but we are back. I feel like last week was just hurting the draft position, but you know what? Gotta keep it going, right?
Got to see some green, some light at the end of the tunnel. So we both needed a big week last week after the week prior, how bad it was. So yeah.
And I'm still kicking myself for picking the Giants, but it's okay. It happens.
Ooh, this week's tough.
Anyway,
all right.
You won, so it's your honors.
All right. This is a tough week for me. I'm gonna go Pats plus 2.5. I honestly think they win outright against Tampa. I don't know why Tampa is favored here. 2 very good football teams that nobody seems to talk about, but I think the Pats are hot. I don't like the Bucs defense whatsoever, so give me Pats plus 2.5 again. I think it's gonna be an outright winner, so I like them there. I'm gonna go Niners plus 5.5. I don't know about that. I don't know about that one. That one's tricky, but I don't know. They always seem to play the Rams pretty tough, and I think the injury report, I don't think they have too many major injuries going into the week. When I looked early this morning, I could be wrong. Half sleep picking these underdogs. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I'm gonna go Niners plus 5.5. And the one I'm not confident in whatsoever is Steelers plus 2.5 on the road against the Chargers. I only picked Pittsburgh because the rest of it looks terrible. I'm not picking the Vikings. I wasn't going with the Eagles. So give me Steelers plus 2.5. I think I picked them last week against the Colts to kind of stay afloat, keep their head up in that division. And I'm going to go the same thing here. Don't think they went outright, but I just need them to cover. 0-3 weekend coming, but hey, shoot or shoot.
All right, I'm gonna go Eagles plus 1.5. I think they pick up the win here. We just got done talking about Green Bay. I think Green Bay suffers another home loss. Not that this one's that bad because it'll be the Eagles, but they're not good. Eagles are not that the Eagles are. I don't really know what to think of the NFC or the Eagles really. But give me the Eagles plus 1.5 to win tomorrow or Monday night rather. This is a tough week. I agree. I'm kind of bouncing a little bit all over the place. This might be dumb because they're hot and they're rolling, but JJ McCarthy back. I don't think they're going to win, but I'm going to go Vikings here plus 4.5. No real reason other than because the Ravens are hot, but the Vikings are home. JJ McCarthy and this team went on the road last week and beat Detroit, have some momentum. So give me the Vikings plus 4.5 to keep this game close. Maybe a field goal game. I don't know if they'll actually win, but I could see this being let's say a 3-point game. And then finally here, I'm stuck between Tampa and the Steelers game. I'm going to go Patriots plus it's 2.5, right? Yeah, I'm going to go Patriots plus 2.5. They're rolling. They're hot. I still don't fully trust the Steelers, so I'm going to kind of gear away from them. But the Patriots are hot. They're, 5 straight wins or 6 straight wins, actually, after starting 1-2. Drake May's rolling, MVP candidate, all that stuff. Tampa's, like you said, defensively, I think Drake May can find some holes there. So give me New England, even though Tampa coming off the bye. And Tampa, they've got a tough stretch. They got New England this week. They got Buffalo, and then they got the Rams. Both of those games on the road. We joke about the Panthers, but if Tampa starts to lose some of these games and the Panthers beat the Saints like they should, Panthers are kind of in the mix in the NFC South. So if the Bucs lose these games, but I'll go Patriots plus 2.5 and the Vikings plus 4.5, which is probably a terrible pick. But
what can possibly go wrong?
Yeah. Anyway, any closing thoughts?
As usual, thank you for watching. Enjoy your college football Saturday, and we will see you guys next week.
Yeah, see you next week. Enjoy all the college games on today, Sunday, tomorrow. Enjoy the games, and then Monday night as well. So talk to you next week.
Yeah.